Let's podcast alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovies inside Eford Studios in downtown Raleigh. Big thanks to Empire Properties. And of course, big thanks to Copiers Plus. Check them out online at copiers-plus.com. We got printing, we got document management. Get that print assessment. It's the summer. You got to make sure that the rest of the year, budget-wise, you're going to make it through. Good way to save money is on those print costs, management costs, and Copiers Plus can help you out with that.
Maybe you need to print out all of the housekeeping.
So much housekeeping. So much
crazy.
Maybe there's a little... Oh, wait. As we're recording this, I just got a text from our guy, Eric Mackling.
Big Mac.
Because I realized that
you better get yourself into football mode,
like we're
sir.
we're 2 weeks away from ACC kickoff, man. But yeah, we're trying to get Mackling on because he was at like the welcome day for SMU and all the other stuff that was been going on. I'm like, I mean, we got to talk to Eric about future ACC football champion SMU, right?
Given I just won a bunch of money on a golf bet, I think it's now time to take the SMU scratcher.
It's time, man. It's time. That would be the most go. You thought Go ACC was dead? Oh, no. Watch SMU come in here and win these things. So Tuesdays, I'm having this realization of ACC kickoff right around the corner. I mentioned it on yesterday's podcast. Tuesdays are going to be a little bit different from here until the start of the football season. Show's going to be a little bit more focused on interviews, a little more long form, let it breathe, that kind of stuff. So today we have conversations with Rod Brind'Amour, head coach of the Carolina Hurricanes, and new general manager Eric Tulsky. We went over to Wake Competition Center and sat down with them for a few minutes. Fun conversation, which we'll give to you here in a second. It's almost like, I guess you could say it's almost one gigantic hockey break for today's podcast. Could you not?
Let's take a break. Let's take a hockey break. Brought to you by Happy and Hale.
It's funny. We were leaving Wake Competition Center, and you said you want anything from Happy and Hale, and you were so excited to use the app and get me my green smoothie.
It's really easy.
Yes, it is.
And it makes pickup really easy as well. Plus, you get a free smoothie once you sign up on the Happy Plus Hale app. And within a month of your birthday, even if you sign up after your birthday, you get a free bowl.
Yeah, I feel like the hockey break at this time of the year is probably a good break to have because before we got recording, you said I was slipping. All-star snubs.
Yeah, we did hot takes yesterday. And you were like, here are two things that people
things that we were melting down over for the 4th of July. I did not bring up all-star snubs. You're right.
Single baseball. That just kind of shows you where baseball is on the consciousness too. So
what, that nobody's freaking out about the all-star snubs?
Well,
they're spending more time on the Yankees.
Yeah.
And I kind of
did hit the Yankees. So
I did kind of reference the Carolina Panthers. That was another thing that you had pointed out to me about worst rosters.
Yeah, the ESPN has it ranked rosters best to worst, and I was more than slightly surprised to see that the Panthers do not have the worst roster.
Yeah, it's one of those. Every so often, I get reminded of how old we all are. And we didn't mention it on yesterday's podcast because it just didn't really fit into anything we were talking about. But when it comes to the Carolina Panthers, there was a change in the front office. Adrian Wilson.
Oh, yeah.
After like 1 year with the Panthers.
Wolf blood, yeah.
Out he goes. And I'm like, wait a minute. Am I so old now that Adrian Wilson has bumped around the front office game a little bit? I remember taking a summer school class with that guy. I took debate with Adrian Wilson back in the day. Are we that old now?
Mm-hmm. He was with Arizona forever.
He was at Arizona forever. He definitely was. So we're doing things a little bit differently today. We'll bring you that conversation with Rod Brind'Amour and Eric Tulsky. We'll still do a little housekeeping after the Brind'Amour conversation. And we have a very special Hey Joe, because the theme of the summer continues. I checked our Instagram DMs, and one of our listeners decided to send me yet another bluegrass cover. But this might be the bluegrass cover to end all bluegrass covers. Just saying. Anyway, let's give you that conversation with Rod. Rod Brind'Amour now sitting down with us here at Invisalign Arena. And Joe...
Man, I was just disappointed in you. I've never been more disappointed in you now.
Oh.
You're tan. That implies you took a day off.
Yeah, what did you do?
Not necessarily.
Implies. It implies.
Yeah, remember, what implying is like, what is it?
Assuming.
There you go. We know what that means.
Yeah, no, you know what happens. All right, but come on. At the beach, I was at Carolina Beach on Saturday.
Yep.
And what did I see? I saw dudes running. I saw a guy on a bike
Yeah,
on the beach.
Of course. Never
So-
take a day off. You get it done in the morning. Then you go with all the other knuckleheads and you
Right.
enjoy America.
Now, what's your beach setup? Are you an umbrella guy? You got the tent. You got the shaboomi.
That thing, by the way, I wish I had thought of that. God,
Right?
unbelievable.
Smart.
I held off on buying a
Unbelievable.
shaboomi for years. I'm like, no, I got this umbrella. I'm
guys
going to do
are
this.
killing it.
Finally bought one. I'm like, I've wasted so many summers.
Totally. Anyway, no, I do like being in the shade,
Okay.
but I'm actually in the water guy. I don't like sitting around. I can't do it. I got my little guy. We get out there, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to get him to get on the surfboard, but on the weekends you can't do that. So we do the little wakeboard thing.
Yeah.
and just enjoy the water.
Now, when did you come into that? Because I can't imagine that.
This is why I married into it.
Okay.
Amy's
Yeah.
family lives
Not
there.
Campbell River. No.
No.
Plus, with player contracts, they probably don't want you on a wakeboard, right?
Oh, you're talking behind the boat. I meant just boogie boarding.
Oh,
But yeah,
okay.
no, we do a little of that too.
Oh wait, you're skimboarding? You're going into the wave?
Yeah.
Hell yes.
Yeah, I mean, we're out there getting.
I love
doing
that.
it. But to your point, back when I was a player, yeah, you weren't really supposed to do that stuff. You got to do some things. You got to do something.
Not that they need to know about that. So your off season.
Yeah.
Last time we talked to you, it was you want to bring everybody back.
Yep, that
But-
didn't work out very well, did it?
But you knew you could.
You knew that.
You knew that.
True.
So how have you processed this,
You know what?
this last couple weeks?
I just talked to Duke Lacrosse women's coach,
Kirsten Kimmel. Yeah.
Kimmel. Been there 30 years. We had mutual friends. We met each other over the 4th, and I asked her, "How do you deal with losing guys that you?" Because they do it every 4 years, and she was like, "It's hard." And it hit me when a couple of our guys left. And then you get, the calls after, and you're like, damn, it's still emotional. Me thinking about what we lost, because you don't realize the amount of not just the time and energy you put in, but how much you care about these guys and how big a part they were of your life. We spend every day, all day with these guys for a long time, and so it's been interesting to say the least for me.
Any surprises to you?
Not after you get through it and you talk to them and you know how things went, you understand. I mean, everything is understandable. I get how the end result. I just wish we maybe could have done a little differently. I think that's where I get a little upset about it, I guess.
How about Don? Last time we saw you was
Yeah,
the press conference
another one.
together.
We love him.
Yeah.
I love him. I thought he was great at what he did for us and me personally. Great buffer,
Yeah.
and so you just hate seeing good people go, and we've took a hit. I'm just going to tell you that's a fact. We not just Don, but the couple of players we left that are out of here. They were big parts of what we did and big parts to get us to where we were. And that's the part that for me is the hardest. A lot of good people around here, and you don't take it for granted, because I never did. You guys, I talk about it all the time, but it's gonna be hard to replace.
But that's the business.
Yep.
And the season's going to start whether you
100%.
you don't have the team that you thought you were going to have XYZ. This is the team that you have. So my curiosity is, I feel like this, looking at the roster changes and also looking at who you have in development or who you have had kind of tabbed to make that next step up. How do you as the coach balance with the front office what could be a next generation of young guys coming up and getting them into what this window is for the team?
Yeah, well, we're going to need it. We're going to rely on it now more than ever.
Yeah.
We've always had a little piece here or there, but now it might be a few more pieces that we need to count on. Plus, other guys are going to have to step up. We had 6 defensemen that were elite, and we kind of shared the minutes. We shared the workload. Well, now maybe Slavo's gonna have to earn that contract, and I think he can. Like we didn't have to play him 24 minutes a night. Maybe now we do. There's different ways we're gonna have to skin this while we see what we have. But I think we have a lot of good pieces. We've rolled 2 power play units for 6 years.
Right.
Been pretty successful last year, especially. Maybe now it's okay. Well, we can't really do that based on the talent we have now. Maybe one unit sits out there and like most teams, so there's different ways to maybe still get the same results, and maybe obviously we need to get that little better result. So we'll see, but I do think the pieces are here. We just may have to rely on them more than we have in the past.
You've told us before, you didn't expect to be a coach. You didn't grow up thinking, no, this is what I'm going to do. And obviously you've built a culture here that, kind of stands on its own at this point. But I am curious with let's take Kokanyemi, for example, or we could take Natchez too if you want. How do you kind of go into your bag of tricks and say, okay, either this hasn't worked or this was effective for a stretch. How do I get that guy? How do I communicate with him? How do I fine tune? Because I think people make the mistake of thinking, you're going to bring in new guys and you'll try a lot of the same things because it is your culture. But people make the mistake of thinking, oh, everyone's the same, right? No, every player is different.
But so those two guys in particular are guys that we're going to have to lean on to, okay, like we need a little more. I mean, that's just a fact, and I think they're capable of it. Now, we didn't necessarily need it because I had other pieces to go to. So in KK's situation, well, if you're not going great, then I'm throwing Jack in there, or I'm, somebody else. In Netch's situation, we had lots of wingers that we could just. So now we don't necessarily have that bag of tricks that you're saying. So we need you, and I think they're going to thrive on it. I think when you're counted on, and there's really sometimes guys they when they have someone else in their rearview mirror, they don't handle it as well. When they know there is no one in that rearview mirror, they excel, right? So I'm obviously leaning on that. I don't think we have as much rearview mirror action on this team, but maybe you don't need it, right? Keep looking ahead.
It's like I think Archie Urbe said it before you got here, but he said sometimes you have to throw the puppy in the ocean and see if it can swim.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that was the curiosity that I had with Natchez in particular. I mean, my lasting impression of the post-exit press conference with Don, I mean, there was a question about Natchez and the parent and who's XYZ, and Don had a zinger. Makes total sense. And then there's all the rumors about, oh, this guy's going to get traded. He's going to get traded. That's, the business. So now I'm kind of looking at the situation, and he's elected for arbitration. I'm thinking, all right, well, given how the roster's played out, for a guy who, I guess, publicly has questioned role, I mean, he's going to get that role next year, right?
And we talked about it on the exit meeting with him. I'm like, look, there's a good chance, first of all, I'm probably his biggest supporter. Mm-hmm. People don't think that, somehow there's been written that, him and I don't get along or this. No, I'm the one guy that's pushing him when I think he's one of the more talented players in the NHL. I think I'm maybe harder on him because I know there's another level that he can get to. It's no different than being a parent with your kids, right? Like you push them, right? And when they're not totally giving you what they're capable of, what do you say? You're a little harder on them. So I think that's where we come there. I do think he's got another level to get to. And obviously, if he's here, which I think he will be, we're going to need to see it.
Hey, as an elevated team manager for youth hockey now, Rod, I know all about.
Can't wait till he gets his new jacket.
Yeah, apparently I get a new CCM
jacket. That's what
you
meant about the jacket. Yeah, jacket's overrated. Doesn't help you do your job. I can tell you right now.
What? I just see people email me. I just see people email me back, man. That's all I'm looking for.
Tell us a little bit about Eric Tulsky in the sense that I get all my homework here on the fly. Right, grew up in Philly. I said, you had to have marked out when you met Rod Brind'Amour because 97, I wish the Hall of Fame committee would give you credit for 97 and what you meant to that team. That's a little sidebar there. Put Rod in the hall, you cowards. But he had to have marked out in 2014 when he got here, when he met you. Do you remember any kind of interaction with him about like, really. Hey, man?
Not really. I mean, he's been here it's for a long time. I didn't realize it's been as long as
10 years. 10 years. I don't think most people realize that.
Here's the thing. He's a worker. He's a smart guy. Everyone knows that. He looks smart, right? He's got that. And he is. No, listen. Some guys, listen, I don't look particularly smart. I look probably like an athlete. Just my build's still the same. There's different looks people have. But
hockey players are not really known for their intelligence.
Right. Yeah. Well, they should be. I mean, it's an underrated art. But he's a worker, and like I've seen it in action. I was at the draft with him, and he didn't go to sleep for 3 days, and he was trying to get guys signed. He was doing, and super, with it. And I really appreciate what he's doing. He's tough job this summer, and I think he's doing a great job, and we'll see how it all works out. But he's been doing a really good job.
Was he unable to sleep because of all the draft stuff and the upcoming league year, or was it because you guys were on the floor at the Sphere and you just had LEDs in your face?
Yeah, I don't know what the long-term effects of that are going to be, but no, I think it was just he was working trying to get our team together. You know, it was a lot of moving parts going on, and obviously with one guy last minute going a different direction, and you're holding money for everyone else. All of a sudden, that's what blew up.
Yeah.
In my opinion. But hey, I feel like you said, look, we got a great team. We still have a really good group. Did we get a little worse? Probably.
Yeah.
If we're being honest. I mean, you lost two of the best defensemen in the NHL, in my opinion, and we replaced them though. We did a good pivot, hard pivot, and we were able to, I think, do it a little differently, and now we're relying on these other guys and maybe a young kid to step in to replace the forward group, and so maybe it'll be a little different. Well, obviously remains to be seen.
I only had two more things. I had one more thing, but what you just said there added to it, so I'll keep this part quick. When you were talking about who you have and what kind of team you have, I feel like this is going to be a year that will be the true Rod Brind'Amour process over results press conference game.
I hope not, but yeah, I mean, year one was a lot of that.
Yeah,
and I'd take that year. That was a hell of a year.
Yeah.
So, again, you're right. I mean, you're probably going to hear it a lot. No, you may not. Listen, if the process sucks, then you're going to, then that's part of it too.
Can we get a sponsor for this?
What's that?
Will you get on board with us for this?
What do you need?
We want to play like a game every post game of like.
I don't know.
Did they win?
Doug Worf is now
Did they
president,
lose?
so I might have to work that old NC State connection with Doug.
Because we love that.
That's a great hire.
It's great.
Yeah.
I love
Great
that Doug
hire.
is back.
Dougie, we've loved him forever.
Yep.
Been around forever, and did a little. What did he do? A little side gig for a few years here. but I
MDO
think
Holdings.
he's back.
There you go.
Hey,
But
look, Doug has been very, very helpful with us. Like, the Happy Inhale situation.
Yeah.
Some stuff with O2 Fitness. All that is through our guy Doug, and that was with the Canes, which is great to see.
Just sitting here though now, and we're talking about intelligence of hockey players, and I did say that Trip Tracy only got into Harvard because of hockey, right? And Trip, I think, has said that as well.
His parents.
His parents. There's some family connections there too, right?
Yeah.
But maybe that's why you haven't signed Seth Jarvis yet. Maybe Eric, who's legit Harvard, like true Harvard, is like, you can't be walking around with the Harvard shirt on, man. You got to earn the Harvard
You think
shirt.
that's part of it?
I think that's it.
Right.
I think I've solved that particular problem. Can we get that one done?
Yeah, I would love it. I mean,
Please.
I think that's going to happen.
Right.
I mean, there's two ways that goes, and both, to me, lead to him playing. It's just whether you lock him in forever or try to go a little shorter term. I mean, there's two different kind of avenues. I think it'll get done.
One thing I realized when the last time we talked to you, and I listened back to it, and I went, crap, I meant to ask this question, I never did. And it's kind of like when we asked you about Jarvis and breaking up that line, your response was like, oh yeah, okay, no shit, that makes a lot of sense. It just wasn't a heavy enough line. And I was thinking about the goalie situation with Freddie and Kochetkov, et cetera. And up until the postseason, you had settled on this rotation. And I didn't ask you that question. And I was wondering if, time away, would you do it differently with how you went into the postseason and how you actually executed the goalie situation in the postseason?
That's been kind of, everyone's been beating that up a lot.
I'm included in that,
that's obvious. I mean, that was an area that we got beat at, right, at the end. So going in, look, Freddie been out all year for the most part. We get him back, and we're not overcooking him. For the whole purpose, to me, is for the playoffs.
So you have him the entire time.
So that's what we brought him in here for, was to be our goalie in the playoffs.
Okay.
Now, obviously, Cooch played really well. So we got good options going in. Freddie went on a heater going into the playoffs. So now I'm thinking, okay, this is this perfect scenario. He's rested. We can run him here a little bit. You get in the Islanders series, we get all that time off in between. Like, there was for sure going to be a game 4, I think it was, or maybe it was game 5. There was a 2-day break in there. But, I would have went to Cooch, but we didn't need to. Freddie was fresh as a daisy. So there's no reason to do it. And we win that series. Now I'm back to, again, we start all over. Freddie was playing okay, like, you know, and then we to me, Cooch went in there for a game, did okay. Still, you know, he didn't stand on his head.
It wasn't something that made you go.
It wasn't like, okay, that he was good. He made a few real good saves, but there was a couple ones that he'd like to have back, you know. So I'm like, all right, let's just go back to Freddie, and we won 2 games in a row. Freddie wasn't great in those games, but we're winning, and we're up 3-1 going into the third in the last game. So clearly, that wasn't really the issue, but obviously there was a couple there you like to have back. But at that point, you're pot committed, right? So in my opinion, you know, had you like to seen a little different result, obviously, but I don't think I would have probably done it any differently.
I think that's it.
That was the low hanging fruit, man. I mean, we talked about this before. Like
you guys were buttering me up all the way till you throw that.
No.
There, right?
No.
Yeah, I understand.
we said
Listen, we could have went either way on that.
I don't even. The goalie thing is. I don't.
Either way, they got to end up. You got to make the saves you got to make. And you know, they like to have a couple back, both of them.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, it's just
you showed more patience with Kachekov the whole year than anyone else. So.
Yeah, he was fine. He had a good year. Again, it sucks. That's the way it ended because I thought that we were starting to get our groove.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. It's over.
That's why it's the hardest thing to win.
It is definitely the hardest one to win.
I mean, that's why. I mean, you know, it's up behind you.
Yeah, it's literally.
It's literally up behind you, and the reaction to you winning the cup is the reason why it resonates is because we understand how hard it was for you to get there.
Yeah, it's a grind. It's year round.
We appreciate the time as
of course,
always,
guys. All right, what are you guys doing now? Nothing else.
You're looking at it, man.
Well, I mean, I took
some time off.
Took some time off, which you can kind of do now. Went down to Florida, dry Tortugas, knocked off some national parks. This is what the family does. Up to what? I think we're up to 15 national parks now that we visited.
Really?
Then I visited my brother in Orlando, sweated through Disney.
You did the Disney lines and everything?
Oh, yeah, man. Oh, yeah.
That's
his brother's got the season ticket.
Yeah, well, my sister-in-law now works for Disney.
Yeah.
Does it get you any quicker through the line?
He's not a pedestrian. Don't let him fool you.
I mean,
don't let him fool you.
There are some things at Disney that there's a hard line on it regardless. But with my brother being an annual pass holder and he goes like every weekend and my sister-in-law working at Epcot, I mean, we might get access to some things that, you know, the normal person to Disney might not. So then this guy went back up to New York for a bit.
I went to the College World Series with our guy Elliot.
Golly.
Yeah.
That was exciting until it wasn't, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's the
Two
same.
tough losses, man. It's the same.
Unreal.
That tournament I actually think is more difficult to win than the Stanley Cup tournament
you think
itself. It's just a wacky format. That they
Goalies
have.
are voodoo. It's college pitchers.
Oh
are
my
voodoo.
gosh,
Yeah.
crazy!
So-
I mean, yeah. Felt bad for him because I love Elliot. He's such a good dude.
How can you not? Right?
Yeah.
Huh?
How can you not?
Yeah,
I mean,
great.
it's just
And I love their whole theme, right? The guy who I can't remember the names, but wearing the hockey helmet from the Hurricanes.
Yep, right. AMAC, my man,
There you go.
Alec McAravich.
Yeah, there's
conversation with
like
him coming
this
up.
guy?
There's synergy there. There's synergy
I mean,
there.
love it.
Rob, we appreciate the
All
time
right.
as always, man. We'll talk
Okay,
to you
guys.
later.
Yep. No more
Have a
days
good
off.
Housekeeping.
All right, I gotta get the list.
Before we get it, while you get the list out, one thing about the Brind'Amour interview, I was appreciative of how candid he was about, yeah, man, I want these guys. And yeah, roster's going to maybe take a little bit of a step back, but we're going to make it work because it's a cold business, baby. I appreciated that from Rod.
Every time we talk to Rod, he slightly surprises me. Every now, yeah.
Yeah, I'm no longer surprised. I'm just glad that he's just letting it fly sometimes, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
He kind of he missed my point though about hockey players and intelligence. Hockey players are like they're in Canada in particular, like they're sent away at like 13.
Yeah.
Like,
well, dude,
or whatever the age is,
No,
right?
it's this-
So like they basically have the equivalent of an 8th grade education level. Most of them do. I'm being serious right now.
But it's a little bit different now. They have the schooling and everything else that goes along with it.
Wink,
Just
wink,
saying.
nod, nod.
I'm
Sure.
just saying,
Sure.
Joe.
Sure.
They're it's the equivalent of homeschool.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
neither here nor there.
If you have mess inside your mansion or cash in your cabana, get it clean with Enovana.
Housekeeping is brought to you by Enovana. Check them out online. ENOVANA.com. Green Cleaning Solutions.
That's a great jingle. Would you consider Bobby Bones to be the #1 radio personality right now in the country?
So I would say yes, because even though I've never listened to Bobby Bones,
Right.
I know who he is. So I guess the answer to that would be yes.
Yeah, I mean, at the risk of picking some old scabs or
jeez.
saying that we were right about something or whatever,
Okay.
I found it amusing driving in this morning. He had a jingle.
Yeah?
A jingle for one of his bits.
Really?
And I was like, wow, I wonder what consultant came up with the brilliant idea. Of, what people really like in radio.
Clearly, they went to Dimitri's binder of radio bits.
Oh, we had an all-time classic without you, man.
I know. I'm kind of bummed out I missed out on that.
All-time classic.
Kind of bummed out I missed out on that. All right, let's go over some housekeeping here. We got the podcast. Speaking of Dimitri's been heading up the podcast festival. We've got Shutdown Fullcast, Hand in the Dirt. We've unveiled the hoodie with Home Field. It's got the I have to like pull it up here real quick if I can. But it's essentially Dimitri was looking for some sort of like iconic Raleigh thing that would play well with what we were doing with the podcast, and he came up with the Poland Park train. And it's got the little Shutdown Fullcast astronaut with a snake in it. That's very cool. It's a Home Field hoodie, so it's super, super comfortable. And we thank Breeze Through for sponsoring the podcast festival. Check them out, breezethrough.com. Get the app. You can save money on gas like I did yesterday, driving back from Weight Competition Center.
Smart man.
I went to the PNC Arena location, got my Breeze Through, ran through the car wash because we actually had rain this past weekend, so I get all the gunk off, and then came on back to the studio. So check out breezethrough.com. They're sponsoring the podcast festival. You go to the Rialto.com to get your tickets. What else do we have, Joe?
All right, so that's Saturday, August 24th. That's at the Rialto in Raleigh on Glenwood there. All right, so most immediate, we have Two Roosters Sports Day. It's a part of a celebration of International Ice Cream Week, let's call it.
Yes.
So that's a Thursday, July 18th. We'll be out at the factory in Wake Forest.
Yeah, where I'll be all week.
Will be OG Live, Sleek Fleet OG Live from that Two Roosters. That's 7/18. I highly recommend the Shibumi Shade Blue Moon ice cream that they have this month as one of the flavors of the month. Then at the end of this month, we have the OG Summer Jam. That is at Crank Arm in downtown Raleigh. That is July 28th. That's a Sunday, July 28th. At Crank Arm, our friends, all their amazing beer that they have. Our friends from the Butcher's Market will be there with their grill. There's only one rule. I'm not allowed to touch the grill.
Don't touch the grill.
They did get a new grill because of me, though, so I feel like I did contribute in some small way, even in my haste to be helpful. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
We will have some food from them. We will have our friends Breeze Through again. Oak City Grill will be taking care of us. There'll be a DJ. So just come, chill, hang out. It's a Sunday afternoon down on West Davie Street. And then finally,
what else do we have?
Finally,
there's the golf tournament. I forgot about the golf tournament.
OG Classic that I'm kind of sort of ready to say it's going to be presented by Roback. I think I can speak for Ben and Will on that one.
Okay.
And maybe it's just going to be the Roback Classic because, quite frankly,
let me put the
you know what I
mean?
mean.
We're knocking out sponsors right now.
Yeah. I mean, so 9/20. That's a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
All right. State plays at Clemson that weekend. It's a Friday. It's a little bit earlier this year than last year. It's a 1:00 shotgun start. I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to have 18 groups.
Mm-hmm.
So that means we're going to do par max again, which means we'll get this done in 4 hours. And everyone was really appreciative of the inaugural OG Classic, where we really got it done in 4 hours, and we had great prizes, we had great food, we had great beer. These are all things that we are known for. So that's to put on your radar. September 20th. Again, it's a Friday. That's 1:00. We may or may not have a special guest with us that day.
Still working on that.
Still in the process of that, but we definitely will have fun. And if you would like to play and or get in on a whole sponsorship, my last name, gilio.joe@gmail.com.
Do I get to sling beer again?
You can do whatever you want this time. I feel like if not for our special guest, then maybe I feel like you should be on a par 3 somewhere where you get to hit the 13 wood, or somebody else gets to hit the 13 wood.
I do.
Since it is lefty.
It's a lefty 13.
That's what I'm
wood.
saying. Like maybe instead of tee off with a putter,
yes,
we have everyone at a certain hole tee off with the lefty 13 wood.
Yes.
Right?
I like that.
That's kind of cool. Yeah. And we'll definitely have some beer on that hole.
And you also do a shot of that nowadays from Nature's Relief.
No.
I think
No.
I think we incorporate that.
No, I can't do that.
Do a shot of the Nature's Relief nowadays, the 5 ounces, and then enjoy the rest of your golf. That's how I would go about it.
Oh, man.
Yeah, big thanks to Nature's Relief. Check them out, naturesreliefhempstore.com. That's RELEAF, hempstore.com. They got new hours, Joe.
They do summer hours on Western Boulevard, 10 a.m., 10 p.m., Thursday through Sunday. That's 10 a.m., 10 p.m. So get your fix over at the Western Boulevard. Any kind of drinks, gummies, smokables, you name it, they have at Nature's Relief. That's RELEAF, naturesreliefhempstore.com.
Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline, we are at Invisalign Arena, where the Canes are having their prospect camp right now. He is new general manager, Eric Tulsky. Thanks for joining us on the podcast, Eric.
Thanks for having me.
I know it's been a whirlwind. There's a lot going on. You've got free agency, you've got the draft and everything else. But the only thing I want to know is, how cool was the Sphere in Vegas?
Yeah, it's an incredible spectator event. For the people on the floor, it's not as good because the screen is like directly above you. It's like sitting in the front row at a movie theater. But in the stands, it was great. So
Okay.
that's what matters.
Yeah, I was going to say, at some point I'll get out there to see a show, but you're probably a little too busy either working the phones or trying to get, where are we going to go with this pick more than seeing what's up on that screen,
That's right. It was a busy day. We had stuff to do.
Did you take a second at the Sphere to say, we're a long way from the Naval Research Laboratory, aren't we?
The whole thing, it's been crazy how I ended up here. It's still really hard to figure out how the path I started on ended up here.
Joe said whirlwind, and maybe some people think, and my language can be coarse sometimes, and I overgeneralize some things sometimes, so bear with me a little bit. But some people might think, oh man, this is some nerd that Tom Dundon hired, but you've been here for 10 years.
Been here 10 years.
You've worked your way up, analyst, consultant. It's just this whole process. You mentioned how it's been for you. Just kind of describe it a little bit, because I'm guessing when you're at Harvard and then you're at Cal. By the way, ACC legend, congratulations. We'll get you inducted now that you got that PhD from Cal. But I'm sure you had a different career path on your brain when you had started than ended up being here general manager of the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah, I spent 10 years working in the tech industry. I worked at a biotech, I worked at a solar company, I worked at a display company, I worked at a company making batteries for electric vehicles. Hockey was not on my radar as a career path. It was a hobby that I did on the side for fun. And lucky me, I'm a rare person who got to take something they were doing just for fun and make a career out of it.
Typically, when I hear that kind of background, they end up being a brewer, not a general manager of a hockey team. At least in my experience, every brewer that I've ever talked to in the Triangle, they've got some sort of background like that.
There's a lot of chemistry in that. I certainly had a lot of grad school lab mates who were into it.
Okay, fair enough. Enough.
Are there any connections between? I'm just reading. You spoke at MIT, and I'm looking at this bio, trying to figure some of these things out. Is there any connection? I'm just going to read this, okay? Previously engaged in research helping unique nanotechnology solutions to problems in DNA sequencing, solar energy, displays. I still don't know what displays are, and energy storage. Is there a connection between finding a top-line center to go with top-line wing to go with Sebastian Aho and DNA sequencing?
So first, no.
Okay.
Displays means, your computer monitor, your TV, like the QLED TVs. The Q in QLED is quantum dots, and I was making the quantum dots that went into those TVs.
Yeah, I mean, basic stuff.
So, yeah, there you go. That's it. And, so no, there's no direct connection at all. There's a lot of indirect connections. There's a lot of soft skills that are useful for both, right? So in both fields, you have information, but not perfect information. And you have to be able to integrate the information you have from different sources. That's sometimes going to conflict. Sometimes it's unclear what it means. And you have to chart a best course and still be able to keep in mind you might be wrong. And how will you know if you're wrong, and how will you correct if you're wrong? That applied, that skill set applied in both chemistry and hockey in a way that you probably wouldn't anticipate if you haven't been through both.
I brought up Whirlwind because this process kind of came later in the offseason, post-exit, and you're now in the position to make those decisions with Tom Dundon. Not that you weren't part of those decisions before, but I feel like at least our conversations with Don, our conversations with Tom, everything was collaborative, and then Tom ultimately, has his say in these types of things. So how much of that changed when you elevated to the general manager role proper, when you started to look at what the roster could look like this offseason, a lot of contracts coming due, the trade market, a lot of rumors around certain guys, including one that has elected for arbitration. So how was that? Was it seamless? How did it change for you in the process in decision making?
Yeah, I mean, the way we operate hasn't really changed.
Okay.
It's just who's in what role has changed a little bit.
Okay.
So we still want to get everybody's opinion. We still want to figure out, well, if everyone agrees, there's no decision to be made. It's done already.
Mm-hmm.
When there's disagreement, sort of figuring out why and figuring out how to blend the information we have. We've got this scouting report that says this. We've got this review from the coaches that says that. We've got this opinion from a player who played with the player who says this. We want to bring all the information we have together and make an informed decision. And, really all that's changed is who's the person in charge of assembling that information together and integrating it.
Did you have a sense that Don was ready to do something else?
I did not expect him to be moving on.
Okay. So here you are. What do you find more difficult, the first day of free agency or where you're at now, trying to balance what remains of the salary cap and some players that you clearly want to knock out some contracts with?
Yeah, I mean, the first day of free agency was the busiest day of the year. I mean, leading up to that, just talking to other teams about what they were doing and feeling out the market, I was averaging probably 50 or 60 phone calls a day. If you make 60 calls and each one's 10 minutes, that's 10 hours on the phone. And if you've got 5 minutes between calls, it's 15 hours.
Jeez.
So that was a busy week.
Okay.
At this point, things have slowed down a little bit, and we can start hammering out the last couple things that need to be done. But it's still a busy job, but that time crunch for those couple weeks leading up to it was something else.
I'm going to present to you how the outside PNC Arena viewed these things and how you might view these things inside the building. And I think the only one that caused people to go, was the Gensel departure for Tampa. And there had been a lot of rumors, a lot of reporting that ended up going on social media that things were somewhat close. I think one of the reports was an 8-8 as going to Tampa. Where are we from what was been reported to how things actually shook out on July 1 with Gensel specifically?
Yeah, I mean, we really wanted to keep him. We tried hard. We made a big push. In the end, he's a free agent, and he can choose where he wants to play. And, I would love to have the power to force someone to sign with us, but I don't have that power. So,
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with DNA sequencing, something tells me that you understand cause and effect and looking ahead multiple steps in a process. So has anything happened since the start of the offseason that has surprised you?
Yeah, I mean, there's always surprises. Our goal is to be prepared for the surprises and to know how we're going to pivot if things don't go the way we want. And, we try to have a plan B and a plan C. Sometimes you need a plan D when there's a surprise you didn't expect, right? And so we're working through it, but, I think we're pretty comfortable with where things have landed. I think we're set up to have a good year this year and keep getting better going forwards.
One of the interesting things that I think you said on your media availability last week after free agency opened up, or the new league year opened up, was not finding yourself in contracts that you will regret later on down the line. Complete agreement with you on that one. So I guess the trick is finding that replacement level for what you are leaving. So when you did approach, especially in the defensive groupings, right? What do you see? What value do you see in the moves that you made so far this week that you feel that, hey, you know what, we're actually going to be fine in that department?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a perception thing here that's always tricky because no team signs contracts thinking this is a terrible contract, but I'm going to do it anyway. Of course. So every team on July 2nd feels like they got the players they wanted at the prices they wanted or they wouldn't have done it. So, I'm probably no different from the other 31 GMs sitting here today saying, happy with the way it went. We got the guys that we wanted at the prices we wanted. There were obviously other things we pursued. Sometimes you have to pivot, right?
Yeah.
And I think the way we landed in the end has us set up well to have a solid team this year, be competitive, be in the mix, and continue to give opportunity to young players to take steps forward and set us up for a long continuing success after this.
I feel like one of those pivots might be with Marty Natchez. There was, again, reporting. I think every day there was some sort of new trade rumor that was making its way out there. But the way things to be shaking out right now, does Natchez have a role on this team? And with arbitration coming up, does it speed up any sort of conversation there before it gets to arbitration? How do you play that with Natchez right now?
Yeah, so as of right now, he's an RFA with us, headed for arbitration, where he'll get either a 1 or 2 year contract, and he'll play for us. If something else happens between now and then that'll happen. But right now, that's what I would assume.
You mentioned the younger guys developing. Because on the surface, maybe from outside, it looks like the moves that you've made and the guys that you've added are maybe more of depth guys or support guys, maybe not in a leading type role. So what of those players who are coming back, who do you look at and say, okay, we really need, player X? I can name 3 of them off the top of my head, but I'm interested in what your thoughts on some of those guys and who they are, who kind of need to fill in that void of those higher end players that you've lost.
Yeah, so there's 2 things that happen. One is we have several young players on our roster who have been there for a couple of years, and those guys can keep taking steps forward on the ice and off the ice and fill some of those roles. But the other, we're here meeting at development camp today, and there's a whole bunch of prospects downstairs who are fighting to come into this roster and start adding as well. And, we are fortunate to be in a position where we've identified a lot of players who can keep pushing us forwards.
I guess that was my other curiosity, too. We talk about windows a lot. And we talked to Tom Dundon last year at the start of the season. We asked him straight up about, this being an opportunity as a window could be closing, so to speak. How do you view resets, windows, and everything else, especially as you referenced, you're talking about the prospects that are here, this development, but this is a long kind of marination or a baking of some other players that you're looking to see step up. How does that play into some of your decision-making this offseason?
Yeah, so I don't think we have the kind of core where you see a window closing, right?
Okay.
We don't have a group of 35-year-olds who are looking at this saying, man, this is our last shot. We have a group of players who are distributed from 19, 20 years old up to, into their 30s. And we have pieces coming to keep things going for a long term. We clearly lost some big pieces this year, and we'll see, it's hard to replace them. It's our job to keep trying to take steps forwards. That's what we're working on. We're still going to spend the rest of the summer trying to do that. But, ultimately, it's not like a window is closed. We have more pieces coming, and I would expect that this team's going to keep getting better going forwards.
At the risk of giving you credit for things maybe you didn't do, I don't know. But I look at, you guys have been really good at getting guys, depth guys who we consider depth guys, a Brock McGinn, a Warren Fogle, who step in, Steph Nason, come in, and you're like, okay. And that's where that whole kind of, I don't know what you call it in hockey and baseball, it's called wins above replacement, right? Who of these guys that you've added maybe have a little bit more than we're giving them credit for right now here on July 8th? I mean, Roslovic scored 22 goals for the Jets in 22. Maybe he's a guy maybe we're not giving enough credit to you guys for signing.
Yeah, I mean, look, I love all my kids equally, right? Every player we signed because we thought they were better than value than what we were paying them, and we were excited to get them at that number, right? So I could list all the signings. I don't know if that helps, but there is nobody who I look at and say, oh, yeah, we'll be lucky if we get that value from him, right? We sign them because we think they're all better than people realize. Okay. And one of the things we really prioritized was fit. And we know the way Rod wants our players to play is very different from the way a lot of teams play. And so our pro scouting group has done a really good job of digging into who is capable of playing the way we ask our players to play and looking for the players who are going to look better here than they did somewhere else. Now, you never know. It's always a risk when you bring someone in. I'm not saying every single player is going to suddenly pop when they get here, but I think we put ourselves in position to get lucky and have some guys come in and say, wow, that guy's better than we realized.
What's it been like for you working for Rod? Now, if I get this right, you grew up a Flyers fan.
I did.
If I get this right, you're my age. You're 49 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So you're pretty happy in 97, and you remember 97 when Rod was the best player on that team in the playoffs, right?
Yeah,
Okay. So you marked out a little bit 10 years ago when you got here, right?
for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So how has that evolution been for you to go from, and again, now, not trying to overgeneralize, but if you grew up in Philly and you were a Flyers fan, you know, there's a certain connotation that kind of goes with that, right? Like that's an interesting fan base that they have. I'll use the words so you don't have to. But they love their guys. Like you just said, you like all your kids the same. But meeting Rod, I'm guessing in 10 years ago had to be something for you.
Yeah, I mean, he's incredible, right? And he's the face of this franchise, and he's a face of that franchise, too. And there aren't many people out there who have that kind of stature with two different franchises. And, I can't say enough good things about him and what he does for this organization.
I want to. This is a nerdy part of the conversation, and I find this stuff fascinating. So the Capitals bought Cap Friendly, which is a website that a lot of us got very used to because it helped us understand what was going on behind the scenes, get a better sense of what you might be doing. But what I found interesting, what I did not realize about Cap Friendly is that a lot of teams were kind of using the API to help their own back end, right? Did you use Cap Friendly at all? Was that something that you were aware of, but you have your own system? What is your relationship with a website like that, and how does it differ?
If you don't have your own spreadsheet, I'm going to be so disappointed.
That's what I was curious about. You strike me as somebody that's like, yeah, Cap Friendly is nice, but I got my own thing.
Yeah, so we talked to them about using their API and ended up deciding to just build our own.
Okay.
So we extract the data from the NHL directly and bring it into our own database.
What is it about the NHL that's different than the NBA and the NFL when it comes to...
That was kind of like him asking you like a Star Wars question. Like, do you, like you talked about on The Ringer, how they had the Game of Thrones for dummies.
Yes.
That was like, you just insulted the man.
But this
You
is
can't
also,
be like, do you use someone else's
no.
homework? Do you think
I think-
like unlike Trip Tracy, God bless Trip got into Harvard because he played hockey.
I think-
okay. Eric did not get into Harvard because of hockey.
I think Eric understands that there's context for people who might not be aware of what Cap Friendly was and the relationship, to which then leads me to my second part
okay,
of this.
we'll pick it up because you just. I mean, really, honestly, that would be like him. Be like, do you need to read the Cliff Notes version of what was the Endor planet to keep track of what's
You're
going
not a
on?
Star Wars guy, are you?
A little bit.
Come on,
Just
man.
a little bit?
Just a little
Are
bit.
you watching Acolyte?
No,
Okay, you haven't had time.
He's slightly busy right now.
You're gonna binge it when it's done, right?
we'll see.
Okay.
I'm pretty far behind on a lot of.
So you haven't
entertainment.
you haven't watched any of the new shows?
Trying to think. I've watched
Andor.
some of them. I
There
did
are a
watch
lot of
that.
flights that
I
you
watched
can catch,
Andor.
yeah.
I watched a season of Mandalorian
Okay.
and then dropped out halfway through season 2.
Because you got too busy, you just thought, I'm not quite sure where this is
So
going.
I was watching with my son, and
Okay.
we moved on to a different show.
Yeah, I completely understand that. I have a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old. If this were 10 years ago, they'd be all about Clone Wars and everything else. Now that they're a little bit older, it's like, Dad, do we have to watch the Star Wars show? I'd rather play video games.
Yeah.
That's where we're
Never
at.
been as disappointed in you as I am right now.
That's fine. I was just
Okay.
kind of setting up the question about Cap Friendly to see how
Tom
it's
Dunn
different.
is the guy who told us he has his own odds.
Exactly.
Something tells me Eric might be responsible for those odds.
So what I was trying to dig a little deeper on is that the NHL is different than other sports that we're used to talking about. Like, I feel like when it comes to the NFL, everybody understands what the salary cap is. Everybody in the NBA understands, well, if these deals are going to happen, you have to make it work on the ledger. And people get really excited about playing the game to make a Kevin Durant trade or a Klay Thompson trade with 6 different teams work, right? The NHL is not equipped. It's not built like that when it comes to the cap and how you have to calculate these things going forward, right?
Yeah, I actually think the NHL cap's much easier than those leagues. Like,
How is it easier?
so the NFL has rollovers from year to year, and your cap space depends on how much you've spent in the last few years. The NBA has all these rules where you can go over the cap, and then you can still make trades, but you need things to line up. In the NHL, there's just a cap, and you can spend to it or not, and that's it. You know, the only exception is when a player gets hurt, you can go over it to account for their salary. That's it.
So what is it about? So why do you need a cap friendly, or why would you build out your own in that case?
So two different questions. You need a site that just shows where you are on the cap and what each player costs and what you have room for and all that. The reason to do our own is maybe, you could go cap friendly and say, give me a list of the players who are going to be a free agent this year. You can't go to cap friendly and say, give me the list of the players who are going to be free agents this year who are pro scouts rated as a B+ or better.
Okay.
We can do that internally.
Okay.
Right. So there's all kinds of stuff you can start doing, building in where do we project these salaries to be? What do we think it's going to look like in 3 years? There's a lot of stuff like that that we can build on our own site that you can't do on an external site.
I think on the topic of salary caps, I think one thing baseball and salary space, one thing baseball really taught us is that there is value in having the money available, having in hockey, having the space available. So you may not make a sexy move. I'm not getting sexy vibes from you right now about what's going to happen here in the next couple of weeks. And quite frankly, what's available out there, there's not a Gensel, right? And the Marchessault ends up in Nashville. So there's probably not one guy out there that you can go get right now to make the majority of your fan base happy. But there is a value in that space, right?
Yep. Flexibility absolutely has value because things happen. And if a great player says he wants out somewhere and demands a trade and he has a big salary, there aren't going to be very many teams that can do it. And he might not want to go to some of those teams. And so there is, if that's a 10% chance of happening, but it's a franchise changer when it does, there may be some value in positioning yourself so that you could take advantage when it does, right? So that we do try to keep our options open. We want to be in on everything, and you can only be in on everything if you have the flexibility to do it.
Where are you in your career arc when it comes to believing your own numbers, what you've built out, your analytics? I think of Ken Pomeroy all the time. And for those who might not, we talk about Ken Pom all the time, and with college basketball, people just kind of blindly state Ken Pom numbers with no context or meaning behind them. So where have you come this far into your career now being in this where you know what the numbers are telling you, but there's a little bit of a human element here too, a little bit of a human touch of, I know what the numbers say, but there's a belief that this might turn out. Where are you when it comes to that?
Yeah, so I'd probably frame it a little differently.
Okay.
I would say there is no answer to what do the numbers say, right? There's a wide variety of information that can be quantified, and different people will look at it and draw different conclusions, right? Every analyst in the league has their own opinions, and it's because some people see, trust certain things more than others. Some people see an interaction between things that others don't see. And so even just in the numbers, there is no single answer. It's all fuzzy. And then blending in scouting reports and coaches' reviews and player reviews, that's all part of it. That's just more fuzzy information to blend in. And so ultimately, there is no single formula where I just say, here's my ranking. It's all based on blending all the information we have.
How often do you tweak whatever it is that you got on the back end that helps you put these numbers out there?
I mean, it's continuous. We have a staff of researchers building out new things and trying to help us keep finding new ways to quantify important aspects of players' games.
The difference between Harvard and NC State over here. Are you ready?
Yeah.
The numbers, there is no answer in the numbers. My gambling spreadsheet, especially after I hit Davis Thompson this week, you get a little happy when you hit a couple of winners. You think, I do
My
that.
spreadsheet
It has
is real.
to be right. It has to be right. But that's a smart man right there.
Well, no, I know right off the bat you're way smarter than us because you're like, no, that's not the way to frame the question. That is the most polite way of saying, you're off base, dude. You're off base.
I love it.
That's great. Eric, we appreciate the time. Thanks for putting up with us and our dumb questions.
No, happy to be here. It was fun.
No, we'll definitely do this again. But I was fascinated by the cat friendly thing because it was. I'm not putting this on Eric, but I thought it was interesting that you get to a point where you can build it yourself or you can buy it, and they decided to buy it. Okay, fine. But you've clearly felt that there was just something different that you could do better than what you see on Cat Friendly.
Yeah, I mean, being able to customize things the way we want it has a lot of value.
Yeah, that's definitely it. Have you thought about spinning it out? I mean, Dundon likes making money. I know that.
He does. We've talked about it. The giving away competitive advantage is hard to do, though. You have to charge a high price for that.
No, what you do is you do it in tiers. You kind of like Elon Musk it. Like, I'm going to give you the car. But if you give me an additional $10,000, maybe I'll give you this too. That's how you gotta work. Tiers, little packages. That's how you make it work.
We'll work on it.
Eric, I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Big thanks to Whitaker and Hamer for being a corporate champion from the jump. Check them out online at wh.lawyer. I don't think we have to draw up anything for our podcast festival guest, Debbie Yao. There's nothing that she can say that would get her in trouble with the ACC anymore, right? We don't have to like work up any sort of documents. There's no grant of rights with Debbie's appearance on the podcast festival August 24th at the Rialto, right?
I know people are looking forward to it. So
I cannot wait.
let us not do anything to rein in her enthusiasm.
Does Debbie drink?
I have seen Debbie drink before.
Yes, she does drink, because I remember years ago at an ACC kickoff in Pinehurst, I kicked it with her on the veranda having a drink. She had wine. I had beer. So we'll see. Maybe Hayes has a special 40 or something for Debbie. Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. Check them out, wh.lawyer. Also, big thanks to Whitaker and Hamer for sponsoring us. Check them out, myhtr.com. As Joe likes to point out, they do have a mortgage calculator out there on the website.
Yeah,
That's
you got to
important.
know what you can afford. That's one of the first steps there. So Hometown Realty, it's myhtr.com. Buy and sell with confidence. There's so much new construction out there. There are many deals to be made. And quite frankly, you're not going to make them from your living room. They're going to be made by the people who know this area the best. That's Hometown Realty. It's myhtr.com.
So let's say you just bought this house because it has this wonderful backyard, a wonderful deck, but you don't want it ruined by mosquitoes.
You want to spend some time outside, man.
This is why you contact Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority. Bundle and save at bugsbite.com. I saw a new sign go up in my neighborhood.
It's got to be us.
It's got to be us. It's clearly what it is.
No doubt.
So check them out, bugsbite.com. Bundle and save. Take care of those mosquitoes, because look, man, it might be the dog days of summer, but you know it's going to remain hot for the considerable future.
Yeah.
Mosquitoes stick around a little bit longer, so make sure you take care of that. Also, big thanks to State Farm. You just bought that house. You need great insurance.
Yeah.
Guess what? Matt Davis, InsureGarter.com, TheOGInsurance.com can make sure that you're saving with State Farm. Great customer service, and most importantly, actual humans in town. You can call them directly with a 919 area code number, 919-779-8277. Big thanks to Matt Davis over at State Farm. Let's get out of here on some Hey Joe questions. One of them's from me, and then we have another one from a listener. Big thanks to Crank Arm for sponsoring Hey Joe. Check them out, crankarmbrewing.com. We mentioned the Summer Jam on July 28th. We've got Crank Arm at Butcher's Market as well. Corporate synergy. We love to see that. More importantly, just go check them out. Go buy their beer. Go to crankarmbrewing.com. I got a question. Hey Joe, how much money did Adrian Wojnarowski make off of Dan Hurley's new contract with UConn?
Man, I hope there was a cut in there.
There's got to be a finder's fee or some sort of percentage as representation, right?
6 years, 50 mil.
Yeah. Whew. This all ties back into what I said yesterday about the Lakers and what the real story is. It's not Bronny, man. It's the fact that the Lakers, this storied organization, has gotten this bad, where they're getting worked by LeBron, and they got worked by the NBA insider and the college basketball coach. Come on. What does Rob Pelinka do?
Not a great summer for Rob.
What does he do?
What would you say you do here?
I mean, we could do what he does for less.
Yeah, for sure.
Save some money for the Lakers,
Just
right?
not as handsome, though.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point. All right, this came to us from Russ, and he said that this might be the bluegrass cover to end all bluegrass covers. I was like, I'm kind of worried here. And it's from one of my favorite Instagram accounts. There, I Ruined It. And they take songs and do exactly as they state. Ruined it. So this is called Snoop Frog Gin and Juice.
I feel like I know where this is going.
And I can already tell in the Pro Tools, I see Rainbow Connection, Kermit, not Kermit. Okay, let's see where this goes.
My mind on my money on my mind, sipping on gin and juice. With so much drama in the LBC, it's hard being Snoop D-O-double-G. Raise off these nuts, 'cause you get none of these. I roll through the frog pond, feel the breeze. It's 2 in the morning and the party's still jumping while you motherfuckers bounce to this.
That's pretty damn good. Not gonna lie. I don't know if that was AI. If somebody was doing a
Now, is
Kermit
that
the Frog
bluegrass just because it's a banjo qualifies?
I think it qualifies.
Okay.
Banjo automatically qualifies it as bluegrass.
Okay.
And as we know, Gin and Juice is one of the all-time bluegrass
Yeah,
covers.
that's kind of what started it all. That and Thunderstruck.
Now you're doing the mashup with Kermit the
Yeah.
Frog and Rainbow Connection. I think we've topped it. The summer cannot top that with bluegrass covers. This is in no way,
I
shape, or
enjoy
form
the challenge,
a challenge.
though.
This is in no way, form a challenge. Do not spam our Instagram account with more bluegrass covers.
Please do.
That Joe wants you to.
I enjoy them.
Yes, they are pretty entertaining. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up. Big thanks to the Carolina Hurricanes. And a congratulations to Doug Wharf. I know we mentioned it with Rod. Big shouts to Doug Wharf, who's now the president of the Carolina Hurricanes. That was a job that was being done by Don Waddell, both the GM and the president. So I can't really think of a better person to do it for the Carolina Hurricanes. He's been with the team for a long time.
Community,
He knows the community. Yep. So that's a really, really nice pickup for the Carolina Hurricanes. We will see you on Wednesday.